The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max are arguably two of the best phones on the planet right now. But if you are on the fence about which one of these phones that you should pick up, then maybe this video might just help. Let's just start this video off straight away by saying that this is my opinion, and I've used both of the Galaxy S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max side by side for the last couple of weeks, and there's definitely things that the S24 Ultra does better than the iPhone, and things that the iPhone does better than the S24 Ultra. I think though a safe place to start is by having a look at the designs of both of these flagship phones. Design-wise, both the Galaxy S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max are quite different to each other, but they definitely share a few aspects as well. Let's take the colours on both this year, and they both have pretty muted colours, which I really enjoy, and they both have titanium in the name of the colours. And I'm not saying that Apple did this first, but I mean, Samsung did just add titanium to their phone. The titanium in the 15 Pro Max made it lighter than last year's 14 Pro Max by quite a bit, where the titanium on the S24 Ultra hasn't really helped it be much lighter than last year's S23 Ultra. The titanium does help both of these phones be a little bit more durable than they would have been in last generations, but maybe titanium for Samsung has been more of a marketing ploy than it is anything else. Samsung did decide this year to go with that flat display on the S24 Ultra and that more familiar boxy feel, which in turn means that actually the corners are a little bit sharper on the S24 Ultra, which can make it a little less comfortable to hold as it digs into your hand ever so slightly when using it. The iPhone also has a flat display, but this time around with much more curved edges, and this just feels a little bit nicer in the hand when you compare it to that pointy S24 Ultra, as it just sits a little bit more flush into that hand with those rounded corners. The S24 Ultra is just a bigger phone overall than the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I'm not saying that it makes the iPhone seem small, but it does make it just seem a little bit more reasonable compared to the giant size of the Galaxy S24 Ultra. The size though on both of these phones does let them have some unbelievable displays. So each of these phones have a 120Hz LTPO display, but the S24 Ultra, with it being that bigger phone, does have a slightly bigger display at 6.8 inches, and the iPhone just a slight bit smaller at 6.7 inches. The iPhone also gives you Dolby Vision when you're watching content, and I just think that this looks superb. With the S24 Ultra, you do get HDR10+. The colours on the iPhone just seem a little bit more vivid, and they just seem to pop out the display a little bit more. This might just be down to personal preference, and the S24 Ultra doesn't do a bad job here at all, but when watching content, I do enjoy the iPhone 15 Pro Max just that little bit more. One thing that might potentially sway you this way or that when trying to pick between these two phones is the top screen brightness that you can get on each of them. The iPhone has a peak brightness of 2000 nits, which is pretty good, and the Galaxy S24 Ultra just does a bit better with having a peak brightness of 2600 nits when outdoors. The S24 Ultra though does have another little trick up its sleeve when it comes to that display. On the Galaxy, you have anti-reflective Corning Gorilla Glass, and it makes a huge difference when you're using this phone outdoors. This is something that Samsung really didn't shout about when the S24 was released, but they absolutely should have, because it's something that I didn't know I needed until I had it. It just makes using that S24 Ultra outside much better than using the iPhone. I mentioned it earlier that each of these phones do something better than the other, and they both have features that the other one doesn't. There are two standout ones when you look at it. The S24 Ultra having the S Pen and the iPhone having Dynamic Island. This next bit might be a little bit controversial. I would rather have a Dynamic Island than an S Pen, but just hear me out. Having Dynamic Island, it allows probably the best Face ID unlock system in any phone. It's secure, it's accurate, and it makes unlocking the phone feel really natural. The face unlock on the S24 Ultra just isn't as good, especially when you're in low light conditions. It just doesn't stack up. It's also not secure enough to use it logging into apps like banking or anything that requires that extra added security. The S24 Ultra actually has a phenomenal on the display fingerprint reader, and it's maybe the best that I've used on a phone in a long time. However, I would just prefer having more accurate Face ID. The S Pen, on the other hand, is a feature that I just don't see a lot of benefit in. It's something that I don't really use on a day-to-day basis. I just kind of forget it's even there. I've used it on a handful of occasions when editing a photo using that generative AI, and it does come in useful, but I know that I can just use my finger and it'll do just as good of a job. If the S Pen didn't come with that S24 Ultra, I know that I wouldn't go out my way to buy it separately, but let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong on this one. But I'm standing by it. The Galaxy S24 Ultra does have a leg up over the iPhone in some departments. For me, the speakers, I think, just give a richer sound and has a little bit more bass. The always-on display is done much better than the iPhone. It just looks sleeker and it actually even just looks more refined. The fact that I can use Xbox Game Pass to play games on my phone wherever I am. You can even get reverse wireless charging, which is something the iPhone can only dream of. Let's move on to one of the main reasons that you might pick one of these phones over the other, and that is the camera. If you looked at the S24 camera specs on paper, you might think right away that these are much better than the iPhones. You get a 200 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 3x10 megapixel telephoto, and a 50 megapixel 5x telephoto lens. The iPhone 15 Pro Max only has 3 lenses in comparison, but they are a 48 megapixel main, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 12 megapixel 5x telephoto. You then might think, oh, the Galaxy has a better camera, it has an added camera lens, so surely that is the better camera. But it's just never as simple as that. When it comes to the main lens on each of these phones, there really is very little between the two. The iPhone seems a bit more natural in the colours it shows in my opinion, but the S24 Ultra is just slightly more vibrant, and that's something that I prefer. Dynamic range on both these phones look fantastic, and the highlights and the lowlights are incredible on either one of these photos that you take a look at. But for me, the iPhone just takes it. Something new on both the iPhone and the S24 Ultra this year was having that 5x telephoto lens, and there is a bit of a battle here. I have to say that they both do a really good job, and I don't think there's much between them, but if I had to pick a phone that does that 5x zoom better, then this one I would have to give it to the S24 Ultra. You just get a little bit more detail in that 5x zoom, and when you go beyond the 5x zoom, the S24 Ultra for me is the winner again, because just look at the pictures it can take when you go beyond that. It looks much better than the iPhone.
For the video as well, let's do a test of which one of these just looks better. So they're both filming at 4K 60 frames per second, and the iPhone here looks like it has a bit more poppier colours, but the Galaxy is doing like a really good job. I think that the stabilisation has got so much better over the past couple of years on the Ultra phones. My go-to used to always be the iPhone. I think it probably still is, but I think it's giving it a good run for its money. Now, with the video for the selfies, I don't know which one is better, and it's a bit weird that I have to look at both cameras here, but I think from just looking at it, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra just gives like a bit of a better picture overall.
The only other thing left to pit these phones against each other is to have a look at the software they use. So on the Galaxy S24 Ultra, you have One UI 6, and on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, you have iOS 17. Some people will just never change their mind on what they prefer though. Like, people really like One UI or really like iOS. There's not that many people that say they're kind of both okay. But I would say that they both have advantages and disadvantages. There is one huge thing lacking in iOS, and it's something that Samsung made a song and dance about this year, and that is adding Galaxy AI. Galaxy AI made a really successful debut on the S24s this year with things like Circle to Search that you can use in any app and get results without even leaving that app. You have instant slow-mo video just by holding any video that you've taken in the gallery. Generative Fill can edit photos by removing objects, resizing things, and filling in parts of photos that need to be filled in. You have Transcript Assist. You have so many AI features that iOS just doesn't have, which gives you a little bit more for your money when you pick up the Galaxy S24 Ultra. If you asked me a couple of years ago about One UI, I'd have said it's actually not great and it seems like it's a bit of a mess, and comparing it to iOS I think would have been quite silly. But now I think that One UI really does stack up to iOS. iOS does have some of my favorite software features in any phone though, and one of them is handoff, the ability to copy from your iPhone and paste on your Mac. It's such an underrated feature and it's genuinely a little bit magic. Animations come across smoother on the iPhone with iOS than they do on the S24, and AirDrop is absolutely unrivaled when it works. If I had to make a choice though on what I think looks better, I'd go with One UI. The customization is one of the biggest driving forces behind this, and iOS kind of sucks. It's just stuck in the past a bit, and the widgets don't look as good as they do on One UI. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to personal preference on what you prefer. Like, do you want to go with One UI and the Galaxy S24 Ultra, or does iOS and the iPhone 15 Pro Max work for you? I'll be honest, I can't pick between the two. My sim has been in the S24 Ultra for the last couple of weeks though, and I prefer the photos that it takes. But if I needed to take video, then I'd probably want to use my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Having said that though, at the moment, I am really enjoying the S24 Ultra, and it feels fresh, it feels new, it feels like it should be where it is. And the iPhone for me just seems a bit dated. Let me know though which one you would pick in the comments below and why you would pick that over the other, and hopefully this video has helped you make a decision on which one you would want to go for if you were torn between the Galaxy S24 Ultra or the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and hopefully you're just a little bit more decisive than I am. Before you go, if you want to subscribe to the Android Authority YouTube page, then that would be great, and if you do that, then I will see you later.